people usually 10 questions that people usually criticize Christianity for. And so I'm only picking 6 out of those 10, and I wanted to be able to deal with a few of those. And the first one that she's really dealing with is this one, religion. And the first question with religion is people always say, or people ask the sign, aren't we better off without religion? That's what people say a lot of times. Aren't we better off without religion? So I want to talk about this a little bit, and hopefully, if there's any question, there's any comment, feel free to bring it up. I think we have someone joining us. Someone's coming in. Is that Lisa? Hey, come in. Hi, hi. Oh, you know something? Matthew 1. Right. Matthew 1:23. Yeah. And I'll print it for them. Anyone that you choose. Yeah, you could use that one. Okay. Ali and Alea, you guys are gonna go with Elizabeth, and you guys will practice your memory verse. They're gonna be reading the Bible verse for our district day of fellowship next week, and so they're practicing with Liz. And so, yeah. So anyway, that'll be good. Thank you for bringing them, Lisa. Yeah, thank you for bringing them. All right. So Lisa, I was just kicking off an introduction. And the introduction is that the series I'm doing from now until maybe the end of January is called Confronting Christianity. And it comes from a book. I think the name of the lady is Rebecca McLaughlin. And it talks about the 10, she comes up with 10 questions that people have issues with when it comes to Christianity or when it comes to religion. And so 10 hard questions, 10 tough questions. And anyway, I wanted to also raise them up for us as well, so we can think through them and at the same time see what the Bible has to say about it. So anyway, I'm going to pick it up with the question for tonight. And I'll begin with a quick illustration. 1633, there was a gentleman, and many of us know the gentleman. He ended up concluding that the earth does not revolve around this, that the sun does not revolve around the earth, but the earth revolves around the sun. And pretty much the church declared him to be a heretic, told him to recant. He didn't. So they banned his books, they arrested him, so on and so forth. And people think about religion all the time, and the question people ask sometimes, aren't we better off in this world without religion? That's something that people bring up all the time. Aren't we better off without religion? And so the question is, aren't we better off without religion? And people argue, people come up with different reasons. But here's reason number one. People will say, oh, you know what? Let me move this side so that Ed can capture the screen a little bit. All right, first reason why people would say we're better off, and I'm going to give some of the reasons. I'll give 3, and I want us to pause and talk about it a little bit. Number one, religion has burdened humankind with a gargantuan number of conflicts and a great deal of divisiveness. This is the people's first argument. So people will say, look at a lot of wars in the world. Look at a lot of conflicts in the world. A lot of it is stemming to religion, people would say. And so look at, this is a picture of the Armenian genocide, right? And so again, religious conflict, leading for loads of people to be slaughtered. This is just a picture of crusades, right? This is when the Christians were going to Muslim territory, Jerusalem, and slaughtering a lot of Muslims. And so that's reason number one. Religion brings about conflict. Religion brings about division. And so this world is better off without religion, because without religion, we'll see less conflict and we'll see less division. So anyway, reason number one why some people say we're better off without religion. And it's interesting, a philosopher called Pascal, he made this statement. He said, men never do evil so completely and cheerfully as when they do it from a religious conviction. Very sad. But this could be very true. We'll see people who would bomb themselves, right? And, bomb themselves and bomb others in the name of religion, right? I'm going up to God, so who cares if I do it, right? Men never do so evil so completely and cheerfully as from religion. All right, number 2, religion has hindered honest dialogue and practices due to archaic belief systems. So this is also another thing that people put forward, that religion, we're better off without religion, because when religion is put into the mix, people don't want to have serious discussions about science. They don't want to have serious discussions about the world, the way the world works. They don't want to have serious discussions about relationships and marriage and in people's minds how that has evolved. And so, Galileo here is an example, so on and so forth. And so, and this is Jim Jones. This is another gentleman, David Koresh. That's David Koresh. And these are individuals who pretty much used religion to deceive people and created cults. So I don't know if you guys know anything about Jim Jones, but he created a huge, cult following. Took them all to Guyana. Ended up with a big mass murder. David Koresh, he was actually a Seventh-day Adventist and kind of went on a deeper end. And he also took a whole bunch of people and took them to Waco, Texas. And there in Waco, Texas, he also had a whole mass murder situation. It was like a cult thing. People were following him. So anyway, people feel like that's what religion does, right? It causes people to stop thinking, follow blindly, and not have honest dialogue and practices due to archaic belief system. All right, here's number 3. Then I want us to talk about it a little bit. Last thing people say that we're better off without religion is because religion has been notorious for making people second place in society, right? So this is a big one. People would actually point to religion as one of the main drivers of keeping women second place in society. I don't have all the statements on the screen, but I could talk in detail about how, especially the church in medieval times, would use Bible verses such as "Wives, be submissive to your husbands" as justification, legitimate justification to abuse wives, right, in the homes. I'll say this, I probably shouldn't really be saying this, especially being recorded, but truthfully, it's not private, it's actually public. Even where I went to school, so this is recent. This is not like back in the day. This is like, I just graduated in 2018. That's only 5 years ago. So even where I went to school for my master's, which was a Seventh-day Adventist institution, Andrews University, every year before the year begins, especially for people who are in the seminary. So seminary are those who are studying to be pastors. That's what we call the seminary. There has to be a domestic violence training at the beginning, every single year, because frequently, well, not frequently, but from time to time, there are domestic violence incidents amongst the seminary and people studying to be pastors, specifically because they hold on to the theology of, or to the ideas that if men are the head of the household, they could treat their wives in any kind of way, right? And so, again, this is, and I'm not trying to do any indictment or slander towards that university, but this is just some things that have happened there. And the point that I'm trying to make is that this is why people say we're better off without religion, right? Because religion has perpetuated, especially people like women being second class, or let's even talk about it here in this country, right? Religion was even used to keep African Americans, right, second class citizens. So interesting enough, one professor, his name was Darius, wrote an article. First time I read it, now I couldn't believe it, that during the time where slavery was in America, it's very interesting. The people who were actually pushing for slavery to be maintained were the Christians, the Bible holding Christians, because they were using verses in the Bible like masters, or slaves, be obedient to masters, so on and so forth. And actually, the people who were arguing for the abolition of slavery were atheists. And very interesting, many times, and of course, this is just a blanket statement, so of course I know there are exceptions. And I could show you the articles too. But also, at the same time too, it's very interesting because those who were arguing for the abolition of slavery, the Christians would call them immoral or ungodly because they said that they were the ones who were going against the Bible, right? And so Very interesting, very, very interesting statements. I could show it to you guys. I could print it out for you all. And so, again, it's just reiterating the point of critics that we're better off without religion because religion has been used to subjugate women, has been used to subjugate African Americans, has been used to subjugate uh, different, even other kind of minorities in society, right? They would even say has been used to justify discrimination against homosexuals. It has been used to justify discrimination against, you just name it. And so these are some reasons why people would say we're better off without religion. So anyway, with all that being said, I put it to you guys. What do you think? Are we better off without religion in this world? You've heard three reasons. Reason number one makes people second place. Well, let me back it up. Reason number one, it causes conflict and divisiveness. Reason number two, it hinders honest dialogue and practices. Reason number three, it leads people to be second place in society. What do you think? Let's talk a little bit. Are we better off without religion? Religion, faith-based practices, where there's some sort of belief in the supernatural, higher power. Christianity, well, let's even deal with the major five, right? Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, right? Major five. And you can add others. You can add animistic beliefs. You can add Confucianism, whatever. Put them in there. Okay, all right. What do you mean by that, Sandy? Okay. Okay. Hmm. Okay. All right. So I hear what you're saying. So it depends on the kind of religion you're saying. All right. Interesting. All right. Anybody else? Lisa, it looks like you got a lot to say. Okay. You know, we need it. Okay. All right. Why do you say we need it then? Mm, okay. Things would be a lot worse if we didn't have it. Okay. Well, this is actually becoming more popular. And so, actually, very interesting. They say that right now, America, for a long time, America has been in what we call, so some people argue that it's a myth, and I can kind of see why. So, people would usually say that America was a Christian nation. That's debatable, highly. Anyway, now, you know, social scientists are saying we're living in a post-Christian society. That's the word that's always being used. So when you read Barna, you read Pew Research, that's what the term always being used. Okay, so now what's the statistics to back it up? Well, less and less people are identifying less and less with a religious organization. And they say that nowadays we've experienced what we call the rise of the nuns. Now, when we say nuns, that doesn't mean like the ladies in the convent. Nuns is, yes, None, and not just non-believers. No, so that's not the accurate designation. Nuns means we don't identify with any religion at all. Here it is, though. A lot of people will say we still believe in God. We just don't believe in religion. It's a very important distinction. Exactly. I'm spiritual. I believe in something out there, but I don't believe in, especially any sort of organized religion. So there's a sharp increase in that, especially in Western societies. And when I say Western, I mean Europe and America. So anyway, it's just a trend. It's a trend. Yeah, it's a trend. Any other thought on this? Are we better off without religion? Okay. Mm, 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 mhm, mm, 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 mhm, mhm. Yeah, exactly. Get me behind me, Satan. Mm, 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 mhm, mm, mm. Exactly, exactly. No, it's very, very powerful perspective, and really appreciate the thoughts and discussion. And I want to get into a little bit of that. And so, that's one perspective. The one perspective is what I've just shared, that we're better off without religion. But there's another perspective, and that's the perspective that Kevin and Lisa, you, and even Sandy, you guys were bringing up. That here's the question I'm going to raise. That's one perspective, that religion can be destructive. But here's the question: is there anything that religion offers that might be of value to the human race? Something of value that cannot be found outside of religion. I'm going to try and answer that a little bit. Now, when I'm going to define religion here, I'm going to make it narrow. I'm going to define it as Christian religion. So those are those who subscribe to believing in Jesus Christ as expressed through the Bible. So defining it very narrowly. And I'm going to argue that yes, there's a lot that religion can offer that could be of value. So I'm going to give three things. So I gave three opposing arguments. I'm going to give three um, affirming arguments, and I'm going to draw some conclusions. Conclusions that pretty much we're all coming to. But it's good to discuss these things from time to time. So here's my first thing I want to put forward for us to consider. Question again, main question is, are we better off without religion? Now, I want everyone to make sure you're following me. I'm transitioning to the fact that I'm saying, well, I think religion has something valuable to offer. And so that's what I'm trying to answer right here. So the first thing I think it's valuable is, while a person, here's a really powerful point, while a person doesn't need to be religious to be moral, I'm putting that in a little bit of quotes because that could be defined many ways. To be moral, and when I say moral, I mean just generally a good person. You know, I'm not talking about being perfect like Jesus Christ. Now, I mean just generally. While a person does not need to be religious to be moral, we've met a lot of people like that, right? Who they're not religious at all, but very good people, very kind people, very sweet people. But here's a big point I want to make. I personally believe that religion can provide the most solid foundation for morality. Okay, so I'm going to explain what I mean by that. I'm going to explain what I mean by that by this illustration over here. We actually don't, well, we see this sometimes here in the States, but actually, if you travel to you go to especially like Ghana and stuff, or like Kenya and stuff, or places outside of here, you're always seeing incomplete construction projects constantly. And so you see stuff like this all the time. And it's interesting because here you have pillars, but under the pillars is a foundation. You see what I'm saying? And this is what I think religion does. What I think religion does is that, in society, we have some rules and we have regulations. I think those are the pillars. But I think what religion does is that it gives a foundation for those pillars, those rules, those regulations to rest on. And the challenge is, and we're actually seeing it in this country, the more you rip away that foundation, then from there, those pillars have nothing to stand on anymore. Okay, so I'll give perfect examples. I'm just going to kind of be candid about this. I know this is going on YouTube and stuff, so I could be canceled, but that's all right. So, so I'll give perfect examples. I'm going to give a really hot one, right? let's talk about marriage, right? And marriage and how we're processing that in society right now, right? And so that's a perfect illustration where, at first it was, to be really honest, it was no argument that marriage, according to the Bible, is between a man and between a woman, right? There was just no argument about that. But now so many other alternative forms are being considered. Well, what's the reason why? Well, one of the biggest reasons is that the foundation that was resting on, right, which initially was Bible Christian values, is being ripped away. And so once that's being ripped away, those concepts or traditional concepts of marriage have no leg to stand on anymore, right? And so because it has no leg to stand on anymore, then it gives room for everything else or anything else, right? That's just one illustration there. I can give you loads more of illustrations, but I think I have a couple of them. Yeah, I have a couple of them here, right? So what's the foundation for the need to practice human empathy? What's the real foundation for it? That's the question I ask sometimes. And I think that religion provides a more solid foundation, because without religion, what's your foundation for human empathy? Is it science? Is it humanities? Is it philosophy? Those could be very unstable foundations. But I think that Christian religion provides us more solid foundation. Human conscience, right? That's one thing we talk about all the time, right? Having a conscience. Well, what's the foundation for your conscience? Is it science? Is it philosophy? Is it the Constitution? Right? All of those things become fickle foundations. But I think that when there's religion, and I'm defining it as Christian religion, it provides us a more solid foundation, right? So, for some people, as I said, their foundations could be science, philosophy, etc. But all of these are very fickle foundations to base morality on. And I personally believe that religion provides a more sure foundation, because the foundation of religion, especially Christian religion, is saying that all our morality is not tied to laws that we make, science or philosophy. Is tied to an all-loving, all-knowing, and all-powerful God, right? He doesn't change, right? He doesn't move anywhere, and he remains solid and stable. And because of that, that's a solid foundation for our morality to rest on. Without that foundation, to be honest, anything can eventually go. Anything can eventually be okay, to be really honest, if we don't have a foundation like that. And so, for example, we tell people to forgive. Well, what's the foundation that you're basing that on? If it's just science, that can change. If it's just philosophy, that could change. If it's just laws, that could change. But if you look at the Bible, there's a foundation for it. God says, well, you forgive one another because I have forgiven you, right? That's a solid foundation over there, what Christ has done for us. Loving other people, what's the foundation for that? You have to ask yourself that question. What's the foundation? Why should I love somebody else? Why do we tell people to do that? Why should we love people? Well, because it's just a good thing to do. Well, that's not a solid foundation. Or why should you love other people? Well, because that's what you would want for yourself. Well, that's not a solid foundation. Well, why should we love people? I don't know. That's why I was just told to do. Tradition, right? But the religion gives us a solid foundation. It says we should love others because Christ has loved us, right? He says, love others because I have loved you. So again, I'm going to this idea of religion serves as a foundation for morality. If you rip the foundation, you don't have a foundation for morality anymore. And it puts morality on a very unstable footing. Something to really think about. And hence, like, for example, a lot of these are, this is Joseph Stalin. That's Mao Zedong. These are, I think that's Pol Pot. That's another dictator. And these were people who were communists. They all led communist regimes. And that was one of the things in communist regimes, right? It ripped away, communist regimes were essentially atheistic states. And they ripped away the foundation of religion. And once that happened, a lot of times morality went straight out of the window. And so many of these individuals, Joseph Stalin, responsible for killing over 5 million people. Mao Zedong was even the worst, Pol Pot as well, terrible, because there was no foundation for morality anymore. It had been ripped right out. So that's the first thing I want to share. Lisa, it's kind of what you were saying, that if there is no religion, we don't have a stable foundation for morality, for loving people, for being kind to people, for treating people with respect. If religion is not there, and I mean Christian religion, then the foundations of it become It can even just become your personal feelings. You know, I think I should be kind because that's how I feel, but that's not a stable foundation. And so, anyway, that's the first point I want to make, and I hope that makes some kind of sense. Maybe let me take some dialogue on it. Any thoughts, any comments, any pushback, any alternative contribution? What do you think? Let's talk about it. Yes, told him a lot. Okay. Yes. 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 And what Cav is referring to is that Peter and Jesus were having a conversation one time, and Jesus told Peter, "On this rock, you know, that rock means himself. You know, I'll build my church." And in other words, he was saying, "I'm the foundation," right? And when he was even saying this rock, you know, that was a reference to back in construction. Before they would build major buildings, they would have what they call a cornerstone, and the cornerstone was the keystone that every other stone will be lined up and measured against before the rest of the building can keep going up. And Jesus was saying, I'm the key foundation, and all morality should be measured against me, you know, before it can keep trickling down. And so, very good point, Kevin. Is the first pope, right? Yes, exactly, exactly, exactly. 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 Actually, I like that word you just brought, Kevin. Dependable. That's the word. You know, for example, someone came to my office the other day, and they came to my office because they wanted me to talk to someone about some bad habits they were practicing. Okay. So even, you know, every one of you have children. I'm actually the only one who doesn't. Well, me and Ed. And so, you know, as you're talking to your child, you know, the question you ask yourself is, all the time you're trying to correct your child, right? You know, when they're younger, telling them to behave right, act properly, don't do this, don't do that. Well, what's the foundation for all that? Why should your child behave right? Why should they act properly? Well, one reason could be is because you don't want them to get on your nerves, right? Obviously, that's that. But again, that's not a dependable foundation, right? Yeah, because I said so, right? Yes, but at a certain point, right? We all know when the child becomes a teenager, I said so doesn't cut it for them anymore, right? And so that doesn't become a dependable foundation. Okay, then you could try to say, all right, be good because you want to do well in school. But how if they stop caring about school anymore, right? So that doesn't become dependent. Okay, well, do well because you don't want to go to jail and you want to be a good citizen in society. All right, that'll help some. But I know some parents who have even taken their kids to cops for cops to talk to them and scare them, and still didn't work, right? And so when you think about it, what ultimately becomes the foundation for them living right, for them acting right, for them being right? And to me, I can't help but come back to one place. You know, it comes back to what Calvin was talking about, that solid rock, who was Christ. That's a more dependable and a stable place. You know, if you talk to a child saying, well, ultimately, we want to be kind to others, to love others, be patient with others, because this is how Jesus, you see, that becomes a solid place. This is how Jesus has called us to be. Who is Jesus? He's your creator, he's your maker, he's your savior, you see, he has claim over your life, so on and so forth. So anyway, it's a powerful statement by Dostoevsky, Russian name, Dostoevsky. He said, if very powerful statement, and this is the point I'm really trying to make. It summarizes it all. He says, if God is not, then everything is permitted. You see, I just let that statement. If God is not, meaning that if the foundation for morality is not God, then the ultimate logic, if you keep following it through, the ultimate logic will end up saying that anything and everything can eventually go. Even think about something. Why shouldn't we kill each other? Really, honestly. Well, yeah, why? What's the foundation for that? Hmm. Yeah, well, we can't base on everyone's opinion. My opinion can change. I could decide. I could decide right now, Sandy, I don't like you, and for that reason, I should take you out. What holds me back? I gotta have a foundation. There's a powerful Bible verse about this. It's Psalm 11, verse 3. It says, "If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? Can't do anything. Lost our footing." So powerful statement. If God is not, everything is permitted. All right. I really don't want to take long. Religion doesn't only give us a foundation for morality, but this is something that's really deep. Religion raises the standard for morality. It takes it to actually to another level. I want to give some quick examples. A lot of religions, a lot of people will say love, right? Love others, so on and so forth. But the thing that gets me about, I got to be really honest, because I was born, my parents were Seventh-day Adventists, so on and so forth, but and they were Christians. But at a certain point, I had to choose it for myself, right? You just can't follow stuff because other people told you to. Right? Maybe a lot of people do, but I didn't want to do that. And as I began to deconstruct and reconstruct faith, one of the things that really attracted me about Jesus is that he took things to the next level. So we could say love, but Jesus took it to the next level. He raised the standard. He said, let me ask something. Love your enemy. Whoa. That really raises the standard, right? So the 10 Commandments, or even people would say, don't commit adultery, right? That's even in Egyptian societies. Forget Egyptian. Even like Roman societies. I was reading about Augustus, who was the first Roman emperor. And at one point, he was on some kick where he was trying to get the Roman Empire to be more moral. And so he made a rule, no adultery in the empire, right? And he was like the biggest adulterer. But anyway, that's not the point. And so, hey, the point I'm trying to make is that, even a secular emperor like Augustus, where we get the month August from, can make a declaration of no adultery. A lot of people do that. But Jesus takes it another step, a step higher. He said, look, if you even think about it, he said, when he says think about it, he's talking about indulging in it in your heart, right? Not just talking about a passing thought, but he's talking about holding on to it in your heart. Even if you're indulging on it and you haven't acted on it, he said you've committed adultery already. That just raised the standard, right? Why do I have Dr. Martin Luther King here? I can't remember. But anyway, I can give more examples. Killing. Jesus says, a lot of societies will say don't kill each other. Well, Jesus took it a step level. He said, well, look, if you're even angry with your brother without a cause, that's killing already. Whoa. Took it up another standard, right? And so I think religion has a lot to offer because it doesn't just give us a standard of morality, it raises it. But why does Jesus raise it? Well, it's very simple. He raises it to show that we can't keep it without him. That's the whole point, right? He says, love your enemies because he knows that it's not, that's why I have King over here. Because as King said it one time in one of his speeches, it's not natural for anybody to love their enemy. Nobody wants to naturally do that. You need the power of Christ to help you with that, right? And so anyway, that's another thing that religion has to offer. Let me give the last point, then we'll have some discussion. Oh, look, I messed myself up. I even ran ahead of myself. Religion provides a power source for morality. Look at that. I messed myself up. It provides a power source for morality. If this is some of the value, and we've talked about it, right? I just shared it with you. If this is some of the value that religion, especially the Christian religion, can provide, then how do we reconcile that with the destruction that religion has also caused? Okay, my question is pretty simple. I've just given you 3 reasons why we can be better off without religion. I've given you 3 reasons why religion provides value. Okay, now my question becomes, okay, religion could be very destructive, but religion can also be very constructive. So how do we reconcile the 2 issues? Is everyone seeing what I'm saying? On one end, religion is causing divisiveness, it's causing conflict, it's subjugating people, it's preventing honest dialogue. Religion, bad. On one end, religion, positive. It's giving us a foundation for morality, it's raising the standard for morality, it's giving us a power source for morality. Okay, so how do we reconcile the 2, right? How do we work that out? Here's my suggestion. My suggestion It's all in this one word. And the one word or the one phrase is bad religion. Bad religion. What I believe is that, and here's my ultimate conclusion. I want to show it to you here. I want to read it for you. Here's my ultimate conclusion here. Everything that is negative about religion that we talked about in the beginning, all of that can be summarized under one word. That's what I like to call bad religion. That's religion gone bad. And so to the question, are we better off without religion? My answer will actually be yes. Yes, we are better off without bad religion. And what is bad religion? Bad religion is when, as Kevin said, people take the good ideals of religion and distort it, right? So yes, I believe we're better off without bad religion. We don't need bad religion. Bad religion is actually causing a lot of negative consequences. But no, we're not better off without true religion. And true religion is a relationship with Jesus that leads to good morality. That's my conclusion on the subject. And so, that's not good. Well, that's my sign to shut up, right? I want to say something about bad religion. Sorry about that. Bad religion advocates violence. True religion, good religion, Jesus religion advocates peace, right? While bad religion advocates discrimination, right? True religion, one of Jesus, is one that's welcoming, right? While bad religion, right? And a lot of people have this misconception that to be religious means that you have to be anti-intellectual. And that's like so not true, right? And when I say educated, I'm not talking about degrees from school, because Mark Twain one time said, don't let school get in the way of your education. You can be a degreed fool. Yeah, you can be a degreed fool. What I'm talking about is that bad religion says you have to be anti-intellectual. Good religion says you can think, right? That's why the Bible says, come, let us reason with one another, right? True religion says that you can be educated, you can grow. The Bible says, and Jesus grew in wisdom, right? That's a person who's learning, who's growing, who's understanding, who's educating himself. Again, I'm not talking about school. I'm not talking about degrees, right? Even think about it. The Bible, well, some people disagree with it, but, you look at the first 5 books of the Bible, even 6, it was written by Moses, a very educated man. You look at the New Testament, a bulk of the New Testament, 13 out of the 27 letters was written by a gentleman called Paul, right? A very educated gentleman, right? And so religion doesn't mean you have to be anti-intellectual and throw all your brains out the window. No, somebody one time said that, we were talking about faith and reason. Somebody one time said that, we need a faith that's more reasonable and a reason that's more faithful, right? A faith that's more reasonable and a reason that's more faithful. So bad religion says you got to throw your brain out the window. Good religion does not say that. And here's the big thing I want to emphasize. Jesus was against bad religion. That's like the big point I want to hit today. Jesus was really against. That's all you're seeing in the Gospels. Anytime you see Jesus arguing with somebody, by the way, Jesus wasn't afraid of a good argument and a good fight. Anytime you see Jesus arguing with somebody, jostling with somebody, have you ever noticed it was never the quote-unquote sinners, the tax collectors, the prostitutes. It was never those people. It was always the scribes, the lawyers, the Pharisees. Those were always the people he was getting into run-ins with, because they were pushing bad religion, and Jesus was against bad religion. And why was Jesus against bad religion? Because and this is what it ultimately comes to. Bad religion paints the wrong picture of who God is. That's the problem. Bad religion paints a wrong picture of who God is. It shows that God is a tyrant. He's a dictator. He's a control freak. And the truth of the matter is, that's not the type of God that Jesus was coming to show. Jesus was coming to show something completely different. He showed a God who loves us, who cares for us, who is for us, not against us. So that at the end of the day, we cannot just follow him in the sense of a religion, but we can actually have a real relationship with him, right? This is what Jesus was pushing. And a relationship got cut off at the bottom that leads to good morality. So anyway, that's the big points I wanted to mention tonight. I want to just come back to that one conclusion. Yes, we're better off without bad religion. But no, we're not better off without true religion, a relationship with Jesus that leads to good morality. Any questions, comments? Let's talk a little bit. I'm done for tonight, and we can finish.